The most evil human experiments you've never heard of. Yeah, the most evil human experiments. Damn. What's like an evil human experiment I could think of at the top of my head? Hold on, what's the Japanese people that like slaughtered a bunch of people? I forgot the name. Unit something. Unit 731. Damn, Japan's PR team is really crazy. This is you never heard of though. That's like the main one I know about. When I learned about that, that's okay why we need TikTok, because I learned about that on TikTok. I learned that they was doing all types of different and then eventually Japan went from that, you know, gouging innocent civilians' eyes out to anime. So they're valid, they're good. Honestly, you know what, they're good. Let's see the video though.
These are some of the worst experiments done on humans in history. Inspired by chat history. Number 1. The Holmesburg prison experiments. Alright, so in this experiment, prisoners of all shapes and sizes were persuaded to go through some fun experiments. You know how makeup and beauty companies...
Honestly, bro, just being in a prison is like, it's like an experiment itself. Y'all realize prison, don't they get paid like 50 cents a fucking hour or something? They get paid like 50 cents. That right there, it should be a human experiment alone. Like, I don't even know why they give prisoners jobs. I wouldn't, if I was in prison, bro, I wouldn't be working a job. I would not be working a job because there's no point. What the am I gonna do with the money? Buy like an extra honey bun or something? Save up an extra 50 cents?
It's usually test on animals. Well, imagine instead of putting lipstick on a bunny, they infected humans with skin viruses to see what happened. But that's of course not the limit. The prison was essentially just an experimentation ground for anyone who had a question on their minds. Like, if you attach a dead guy's lungs to a living guy's back, will the lungs come back to life?
So what the f were they thinking here? You take the lungs, yank all the cords off of them, and you're just gonna throw it on this dude's back. And just think like, yeah, we gotta see what happens here. We gotta see what happens here. I mean, you know, maybe it'll come back to life in some way. Maybe it'll link to like the blood vessels and his brain's gonna detect that there's new... This doesn't even make any sense. This doesn't even make any sense.
Probably not, but only one way to find out. The best part is, all it'll cost you is $50 for the test subject. Plus whatever lungs go for on the black market these days.
What?
The types of experiments that happened here were completely absurd. Like, the US Army had a few at the prison involving certain substances with a few fun effects, like temporary paralysis,
It was definitely
permanent
heroin,
violent behavior, and hallucinations
meth,
lasting days.
and fentanyl.
Lord knows what kind of knowledge they got from that. One can only presume.
At
The
least they
kind
got
of
a high.
experiments happening in the prison were horrifying. Imagine being paid $300 to run around for a while, and then just having your sweat glands permanently removed. Like, you need those.
Wait, that's kind of comp. Or am I just stupid? Like, sweat glands removed, you don't ever sweat. Okay, you need sweat to cool you down, don't get me wrong. But, like, at the same time, you would never, like, smell. You feel me? You would never smell. Like, you know, every day, the reason why we gotta take showers or every other day is because we're walking around. The sun beams is hitting us. You overheat. That is true, but, like, you wouldn't smell. I might take it for a day and just test it out. I feel like I'll be able to survive.
For sweating. Well,
Y'all gotta
despite
understand,
how
bro. I be getting
completely
sweat
that
every day.
was, at least they knew
I
what
got
they were
bad
getting
sweat
into.
glands.
Wait, no they didn't, because the experimenters didn't tell them what they were getting into. And damn, there goes my segue. Well, we are now talking about the Tutskoye nuclear exercises. Tutskoye, what does that mean? Well, it's a place in Russia. Are we really surprised that Russia made it
Oh,
on?
it's Russia. GG's. GG's. Anything, whenever I hear, like, any horrible... Whenever there's any video, like, a horrible video about, like, a human experiment, serial killer, whatever, when I see Russia, I know it's GG's. I know they're about to on everybody else combined here. It's gonna be terrible.
Onto this list, it was only a matter of time. So, what happened here? Well, the Soviets marched about 45,000 troops into the middle of a giant area. All the soldiers knew was that they would be helping to test some sort of weapon. Keep in mind that that's all they knew.
No way they
So
just
they were probably a
Oppenheimer.
little surprised when their own government detonated a 40-kiloton nuke in the sky. Yup. And you can absolutely guarantee that they didn't make sure that the participants were adequately protected. The result was thousands and thousands of soldiers having their lives destroyed by radiation poisoning.
See, bro, this is why I could never be in the military. Because what are they gonna do? First off, they definitely just brush this shit under the rug. Like, they definitely brush it for, like, years, probably, like, decades or something like that, just to forget it. Because, like, you never know, bro. The government is so strong. You're in the military, bro. They do experiments on you. You can't do anything. What are you gonna do? Sue back, run away from the country? They'll just keep you, lock your whole family away, delete your bloodline, and it's over. They probably said it was an accident. They probably did. They're probably like, oh, man, it's just like, you know, they all just, like, slipped one day and just hit their heads and they're dead. Ignore all the green spots and stuff and yellow spots and all types of shit on their skin. They just slipped. I don't know. They slipped on like some weird stuff.
Because the bomb was detonated far enough away that the blast wasn't the thing to kill people. It was the radiation. The government said that the point of the experiment was to test the effects of radiation poisoning on people in a war zone. But they never actually followed up with any of the soldiers, so it's pretty clear that their only goal was to detonate a nuke over a bunch of soldiers and then just see if they'd be able to keep fighting. The only redeeming fact about anything the Soviets did is they warned villagers about the event. They said that if they weren't going to leave, they should dig a hole and just sit in it until the effects wore off. Other than that, they really didn't...
Would that even... Funny thing is that wouldn't even work, because I'm pretty sure the radiation goes to the ground. They said just dig a hole. Nah, bro. Russia does not care. Or they did not care about their citizens. Holy shit.
Care about whether or not you lived or didn't. So what ended up happening is a lot of soldiers came away from the event horribly disfigured in some way. Or they just died right there. And the Russian government got more information about how nukes work. So lose-lose all around. Wait, hold on. If you made it this far into the video, please subscribe. Now we're taking a trip south to Romania. And if you know anything about the legal system in this country, you'll know that a Romanian prison is not the kind of place you want to spend any time in. This entire experiment happened inside of yet another prison, and it was not a beautiful situation. So the question the experimenters came into the experiment asking was, how do you break someone's mind and body effectively to turn them to your cause? And well, the answer is interesting. So the experiment came in 3 phases. Phase 1 was adorably named external unmasking. The prisoners would be forced to torture each other to discourage them from joining forces and working together. Basically, they were supposed to absolutely hate each other because they were all political prisoners. During this phase, prisoners would be humiliated in any way possible in order to break their spirits. I can't even get into it on YouTube, but trust me, it was bad. The mental conditioning they went through was insane as well. They would daily be forced to attend political re-education classes full of complete propaganda, after which they would both have to write about what they just experienced and essentially just confess to their crimes against the state. And then they would be beaten. That sums up the first stage pretty well. The next phase was called...
What the f***? That was only the first phase? I thought he was about to be like, that sums up everything. Next. This is bad.
Internal unmasking. Here they would be interrogated to reveal which of their fellow prisoners tortured them the least hard, which wouldn't end well for whoever they revealed. And the final stage was called public moral unmasking, which was a combination of public humiliation and being forced to denounce their own religions. You can really tell how much effort and care the experimenters put into this. But despite all the effort they put in, the outcome probably wasn't what they hoped for. Mid-experiment, a regime change happened. The people who ran the experiment were killed, and the prisoners were not released. So really nobody was happy.
I was about to say, like, it doesn't sound like the worst. I thought it was gonna be like some, okay, well there is some physical stuff, but like a lot of this is mental. Yo, Romania does not play. Like, they were like, all right, the government was like, all right, you guys failed this experiment, just fucking die, just die. We can't stand you guys. Get some new scientists here.
All right, next up we got another completely terrible dude. This is Chester M Southam, a scientist who went to Cornell. Chester. The reason he's in this video is because he conducted clinical research on people without their informed consent, which could be rephrased as he injected people with diseases without them knowing. So basically, people...
Dude, I'm scared of that shit. Y'all know when you walk on the ground, bro, and like, let's say somebody that did heroin, you step on a needle? Dude, you did heroin. That means you did heroin, and you can get like some type of AIDS, bro. You can get some type of different shit. I'm scared if I sit in a toilet and somebody had AIDS, and they said that shit, it's gonna come through my ass crack, bro. It's gonna give me AIDS through my ass. I always be scared of stuff like that. That's why nowadays I don't even use public toilets. It's very scary. It could happen at any moment. Somebody could literally just come up to you with a needle and just like prick you, bro. Just like prick you, and you're done for. What would you do? What would you do? HIV, whatever type of deadly disease. And it could be a deadly disease that like doesn't even matter like that. Like you can still survive and live, but like it's a bad disease that nobody wants.
People with some kind of illness would come to him for treatment, and Chester figured that that would be the perfect opportunity to perform his own experiments against their wills. So he would inject them with cancer cells without them knowing, just to see what would happen. Wait.
Bro, you give me cancer, the only option is death for you. Cause like, what do you mean when I'm sleeping, you just come in my room and inject me with cancer, and I got cancer, and I'm gonna die within the next like a couple years? How do you even... Hold up. Who was this dude working for? How do you get cancer cells in a injection? I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't even know you could do that. Maybe like a petri dish or some shit. How do you get it in a injection and give it to people? New fear unlocked?
Wait, is cancer a disease? Yes, okay, we're good. Well, eventually, of course, his colleagues reported him to the board, as one does.
He actually
And
worked
soon,
somewhere?
good old Chester was serving life in prison, just as he deserved. Wait, he didn't? He got a year of probation? Damn, that's, that doesn't seem right. Not to mention that injecting cancer cells into people wasn't even the extent of his crimes. He also did the opposite, injecting other diseases.
But I bet if he was a different pigment, he would have got 5 or 10 years or something. Because what?
To cancer patients. Among these being the West Nile virus, dengue, and freaking mumps. Like, this guy said, yup, I'm a doctor. He took the Hippocratic Oath and everything. Then he just turned around and started stabbing people with cancer needles. Also, I'd like to add that I couldn't find anything about whether or not those people survived, which really says a lot about which parts of the news we prioritize. If there's one thing the US military loves, it's freedom. And oil. But if there's a third thing they love, it's finding better and better ways to take out the opposition. But for them to get so good at taking out the opposition, they had to test out their weapons. And who better to test their weapons out on than their own soldiers?
This is what I just said, bro. That's why I could never join the military or something. Because they could definitely just... You know what the new weapons would be like now? The new weapon is probably like a laser that like explodes your head in 0.1 seconds. And they'd be like, hey, everybody gather here, you know, we're just gonna come here. And it's just gonna be a social gathering, you know, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden, where you look up, there's about 500 cc's of laser coming down you and lasering you down. And your life is gone like that. And they just erased your bloodline.
Just... Actually, a lot of people.
Tommy, this America raw.
Or just no people. Well, anyway, the army used about 7,000 soldiers and 1,000 civilians for their testing. What kind of testing? Really, any kind of chemical weapon they wanted, but they were primarily focused on nerve agents. Things that would be able to take out a whole village without destroying any property. It would be more safe and humane, they said. Which, of course, justified whatever they wanted it to. Like, for example, they tested this riot control chemical on some people. For about 1,000, they sprayed them with it. 180, they put it on their skin. For 82, they did both. And for 31, they put it straight into their eyes. For some people, this led to permanent damage to their eyes and skin. Because, first of all, this...
Bro, it's the US military. Y'all gotta be giving out, like, at least thousands. Or tens of thousands. I mean 30.
I said this riot control chemical on some people. For about 1,000, they sprayed them with it. 180, they put it on their skin. For 82, they did both. And for 31, they put it straight into their eyes.
30? Why is the eyes one the cheapest too? I didn't even notice that. The eyes one is the cheapest. I feel like it should be the most expensive because you're gonna damage your f***ing eyes and go blind.
Yes. For some people, this led to permanent damage to their eyes and skin. Because, first of all, this is entirely experimental. They had no idea what it would do. And remember that these test subjects didn't know what they were getting themselves into. That would defeat the purpose. The riot control chemicals were also just the tip of the iceberg. They tested out...
Yeah, blame has to go on them too. Because you hear that, oh, the scientist comes to you and they're like, oh, we're doing a wonderful experiment. We're going to go ahead and test some chemically altered riot control serums. You're going to be like, oh yeah, that's fine, you know. Just get me $30 or whatever. I'll go ahead and buy some McDonald's after some shit. We're good. Yeah, now that I really think of it, they're dumb as shit. This might have been natural selection.
Actual mustard gas on them. Which, if you aren't familiar, is a gas that will just completely burn you. It'll destroy you from the inside out, or the outside in, depending on how it's applied. In this case, that knowledge wasn't even shared. But we can safely assume they tested it in every possible way they could. Okay, cool. That was bad. That was freaky. Next up, we got the Willowbrook State School Study. Yep, it's not out of prison this time.
It's
out of school. Which, to be fair, the school was essentially just a fancy prison.
I'd be damned if
one of the presidents visited the school, he called it the snake pit. Which is a confusing metaphor to say the least, but it also encapsulates the spirit of the school pretty well. So, this was a pretty prestigious school, targeted at a specific demographic, mentally challenged children. So, parents really wanted to get in. And when this dude, Dr. Krugman, said that all you need to do to get into the school is to participate in my experiments, a ton of parents jumped at the offer.
He's sick, bruh. He's sick. What was he doing to them spec kids? He was definitely doing some wild shit. Like putting like some car keys above their head or something like that and like dangling it above their... What was he doing?
So, what Krugman said is that he would be helping the kids defeat hepatitis. which was a disease that killed a ton of people in history.
Come into my
The one
van.
thing he left out of that proposition was the fact that first, he would be infecting those children with hepatitis. The symptoms of that disease, by the way, are not fun. It'll give you a fever, permanent liver damage, and yellow skin, among other things. It can
Yellow
definitely kill
skin?
you. This dude was messed up. He fully thought that what he was doing was helping the kids in some way. Because eventually, if the experiment worked, they would have gotten a hepatitis cure. But you know what the worst part is? His experiments actually helped the progression of the hepatitis cure. So not only was this guy doing completely horrible stuff to these kids, he was actively being praised and celebrated by his peers.
I mean, it was kind of a good cause then, you know? Kind of the parents won because they got into school. Wait, do you keep hepatitis forever? Let me search it up. Hepatitis is usually a short-term infection, but in some people, the virus remains in the body and causes chronic or lifelong infection. Ooh. Well, I mean, hopefully at least they didn't get that? Maybe?
Like, he was actually elected president of the American Pediatric Society. The insane irony there. I don't get it. Eventually, a reporter broke into the school and saw the complete chaos and horrors that were happening there. Because, believe it or not, a man who infects children with hepatitis does not actually care too much about their safety and comfort. The reporter said that, "I would imagine that the situation I had was similar to the GIs that freed the concentration camps." So, just think about what that situation...
Bro, what did the school look like? Like a fucking war zone? Everybody's just like running around. People are like hiding in their different territories and stuff. I can only imagine what it looked like.
Was like. I feel so bad for those kids. Alright, maybe you've heard of MKUltra, the secret CIA project that tried to mind control people. It never ended up working, but it did manage to absolutely ruin a ton of people's lives. Well, meet its cousin, the very descriptively named Project Artichoke. If you've seen Zoolander, you'll be familiar with the evil plot in this project. So, this was another CIA mission, this time with a very specific goal. They wanted to be able to mind control someone to the point where they could be coerced to pull off an assassination against their will. Which is an absolutely insane mission to have, but hey, it's the CIA. The official memo released for the...
You don't need this when you got good old American patriotism. You don't need this shit. Guess what? Just need some good old patriotism, alright? I don't even know why they did this.
This project poses a very interesting question. Can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against its will and even against fundamental laws of nature, such as self-preservation? Yeah, from the start, they knew exactly what they were in for. They knew that to accomplish this mission, they would need a lot of mind-melting drugs. But which ones? Well, that was the question. They tested all the heavy hitters one by one until they landed on their golden child.
Maybe they had a good time.
LSD. They started doing all sorts of experiments with it. The documents don't even go too in depth about what they did, but you can get some lines from them, like physiological harassment for special interrogations on human subjects. Which does not paint a great picture of the situation. The people who walked out of these experiments would also be permanently damaged. But the thing is, they wouldn't remember anything.
How bad is LSD though? Maybe it wasn't that bad.
LSD they were taking. They would have these really vague memories of the experiments, but nothing concrete at all. Completely absurd stuff. Anyway, that's it. YouTube thinks that you'll like this video next, so...
Thank you, sir. Good video. LSD can be very dangerous. I actually want to see the side effects. I was joking, obviously. You know, LSD is a very dangerous drug. Dilated pupils, increased body temperature, loss of appetite, sleeplessness, extreme drowsiness, tremors, increased heart rate, nausea, and vomiting. Man, this is the same shit I get when I like drink some energy drink or pre-workout. You know what? It's not that bad. All right, it's not that bad. Maybe they enjoyed it. Hey, but yeah, if you're watching this on the tube, join the Discord.